Thank you very much for coming. This is the session about sustainability. And for us, it's a very important session. Maybe there are not so many people, but it's a very important session because we believe it's the biggest problem that we have in all this environment of innovation. I mean, at the end of the day, when we mean sustainability, we mean economic sustainability. I mean, how can you sustain all these new things of innovation, of civic innovation? And we have different fronts, different ways to look at it. One way is from the point of view of the city halls. And from the point of view of the city halls, the challenge is how do you build an ecosystem that can sustain itself? It can sustain itself through the different politicians that come into this innovation process, through the different actors, and can make a business case for the city or a case for the city. And then we also have another problem that is not represented here, but probably is the biggest problem. I mean, how can we sustain the companies that build civic innovations? If the company is big, there is no problem. I mean, if you have the Googles or the Ciscos or whatever, there is no problem because probably they have a business model, so they can do things. But if you are confronting a couple of developers, or you are confronting a small company, or 4 people that want to make sensors and so on, all these initiatives are very local. You are confronted with, you are in front of a city like Barcelona that has 5 million people. Of these 5 million people, how many are going to buy your app? And at $1.99, well, you're not going to make such a good living. That's one of the big problems. So sustainability from the point of view of the ones who make the application and ones that make the civic innovation, it's a huge problem. On this panorama, we have some remedies, and then one remedy is crowdfunding, for example. One remedy is a possibility to quick start this funding for these kind of initiatives. We have many others, but still is probably the main question in these innovation ecosystems that we have, and it's a question that we don't have any answer. So we have here 3 people. One is Ana Major. Ana Major comes from the City Hall of Barcelona and is going to talk about the big picture, how Barcelona sees the ecosystem and how the Barcelona thinks that this ecosystem is sustainable. Then we have Petri from Tampere, from Finland, and then Petri is going to talk about more or less similar things, but more down to earth, going back to the platforms, going down to the platforms, actual platforms. How do you make these actual platforms sustainable? And then we have one of these intermediary organizations, probably among the most successful in Europe, that is Goteo. That is a crowdfunding organization that helps this quick start and knows pretty well the problems of the developers. They're going to talk about all these issues. And after that, we're going to open and let's see what we think about it. But remember, it's probably the biggest problem that we have in this civic innovation, how we can make things that are economically sustainable. Anna, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Explain from here, or as you prefer. It's easier that way, yeah? Okay. Thank you, Esteban. As he said, I'll try to solve 3 questions on the big scenario. So how we develop innovation ecosystems and how we concrete specific projects and then how to make them sustainable. Very, very brief. Innovation and city have a long-term relationship. It's not from yesterday. It's a really long-time relationship. And this morning, that if you were downstairs, there was a huge explanation on that. But the thing that I like to begin with always, it's that if you want to be innovative as a city, you have to recognize who are your innovative people in the city, your talent that can link this word to your city. And here you have some very old people, like long time ago, like Gaudí, Miró, Picasso, but also Messi or Guardiola. So it's some international names related with Barcelona that I think really helps a lot to link the innovation world with the Barcelona brand. And Ferran Adrià. Also, but to put this these days, this morning also was mentioned that Barcelona won the e-capital, the European capital this year. And I think we won it because we work a lot on the candidature, but I think we did one thing good, a lot of others that maybe not, but one thing good is that we had different projects and we did the effort to put them all together with the same objective. Let me explain. We had projects where the government was leading the innovation. We had projects where the business were leading. We had projects that were related with the urban space and projects that was innovation with citizens. And we wanted to put all together. That's what the European community was asking for. Because for the European community, sustainable innovation ecosystems, as you can see here, the sustainable comes also from the mix of different objectives, different agents, and the different parts of the innovation ecosystem. So our project, we really focus on these 4 agents. And in fact, we won the award, and this is also the 4 pillars of our innovation ecosystem and our innovation model. So Barcelona tries to define all the projects related with innovations and put them in these 4 pillars. I would say businesses. Businesses is at least for me, maybe because I work in economic promotion area, but businesses is the first things that come to my mind when I talk about innovation, because this is the ancient thing about innovation. It's research, it's how to put the product in the market, and this is let's say, the traditional definition of innovation. After a while, and as working in a city, innovation, we related it with the urban, so where this innovation is taking place. So, and for example, maybe you've heard about the 22A district. It is a district that Barcelona really bet a lot of our innovation and created a district that was from manufacturing, and they changed it, transform it to a place where innovation was fostered and with a very strong ecosystem. Government, for us, it's how the role of government is changing now. It's not only business, but to innovate, you need the government. There are some people that say that government, the only role that they have is just to don't stop, to make things happen and not stopping it. It could be a role. I think that we have a more active role, and that it's true that we are not, and Esteban will like it, we are not anymore a vending machine of services, but we are a facilitator, and we have a role in the innovation in cities. And at the very end, people. People, it's sometimes, and in some cities, the forgotten item, and here we will talk about a lot about people. It's an agent, or it's a thing that we really have to work, not only for citizens, but with citizens. And one word, I'm not going to explain all of that, just one word. You need a model, you need a strategy, but the only way to transform it to a sustainable model is you need to transform and translate the strategy into projects, specific projects. Some of them more related with technology, some of them more related with citizens or creative ecosystem, some of them more related with business creation, entrepreneurship, or even more related with the role of the businesses or the public procurement as a tool for innovation. So but I think to make it sustainable, you need to, and to make for sure effective, you need to translate into projects. And while doing that is where you find some models to make sustainable. Why? Because you need to think about the business model. You need to think how this can be possible, who will pay for this service, who will be the client, what is the added value of this service, and there is where you need to create this business model of the services, even if you are a government. And also because times go by and politics come in and come out. And when the politics change, you need the business model and you need a strong project, not to rethink another time all the things and to make it sustainable through mandates. So some ideas that I think we can discuss about that later on, but some ideas that make this sustainability, it's to put all the agents together, to work with them, to, I would say, to partner with them. So the government cannot do it alone. He has to do it with businesses. He has to do it with citizens. We have to partner with other cities. And if it's like that, then the projects will not finish, will not be killed, and can go farther. And also, if you think that you can do, I really recommend, if you have external financing, it's the best way of pass from one mandate to the other, and external partners, because it's the way really to sustain. And that's all, because I've already explained. We can discuss later on. Thank you.
Thank you.
So, ladies and gentlemen, it is my great pleasure to be here representing Tampere, City of Tampere, and also Tampere region. I serve as Director of Innovation and Foresight in the Council of Tampere region, Finland. And my talk here is mainly trying to reflect the learnings that we have had during our journey in when we have been adopting various kind of innovation platforms in our local innovation environment. We have had a big change in our innovation policy making recently, and platforms have been playing a major role, and platform thinking has been playing a major role in our transition. A couple of facts. We are a small region, 500,000 people in the middle of Finland, southern part of Finland, quite far away from here. One of the industrial powerhouses of Finland, and also the R&D center of Finland, with roughly 7% of GDP coming from R&D related activities. A lot of world-class companies are located and having their R&D operations in our region, and a pretty nice quality of life and leisure is also available for our people there. As a small, remote, but heavily industrialized region, we have a history of 200 years of economical transitions. And every now and then, the structural changes have been hitting us, and in our region there's a very strong culture of survival in different kind of industrial structural changes. It's always about the dynamos, the people, the technologies and economy, the nature of the economy that has been changing. I'm not going to the details, but every now and then we have been reinventing ourselves in the economical terms. Recently, in the 1990s, we were one of the kind of forerunners in Europe moving to the knowledge economy 1.0, so to say, where we transformed ourselves from heavy industry to heavy thinking, so to say. Our happy days were there when the Nokia cluster was strong. We were enjoying a heavy boom of knowledge workers, booming our GDP in every good things. Nowadays, we are facing the fact that the global value chains and clusters are breaking away. And for us, it's a big question. What is the future for Tampere in this kind of changing world? Are we able to reinvent ourselves once again? And what are the tools? And this is the story that we started a few years ago, 7 years ago almost. This is the innovation profile of Tampere region compared to the average Finnish profile back then. This red circle here represents the Finnish average. That is not European average, it's a Finnish average. So we are among the innovation leaders, of course, here. And if we look at the Tampere profile, we are very heavy investors in R&D. Quite many of our resources are coming from the public sources and also from corporate R&D. our capabilities in creating fast-growing enterprises, attracting talent and so on, was not that remarkable those days. And also the output in general in our innovation system was not great. But still, a lot of investment, a lot of activity, a lot of kind of boost in innovation activities. Those days, our conclusion was that we were really seeing the signs of danger in the air already then. We saw that actually when we are looking to the future, there are no safe bets anymore in the existing clusters. We knew that corporations are able to make fast decisions and relocate their operations. We also saw that collaborative innovation, open innovation, stuff like this, is becoming more and more important for corporations and societies. And also our policymakers were emphasizing that, well, we are investing that much of money, more than 1 billion euros every year in our region in R&D. What is the outcome? Are we getting back everything that we want to get out of this system? Is this sustainable in this way? And the conclusion was, in a way, to not focus on the existing clusters anymore, but more on the emerging new ecosystems, create some new innovation policy tools, and focus on collaborative innovation capabilities. And our belief was that if we are able to create exceptional capabilities in collaborative innovation, this might help us in the future. Okay. So coming back to this, our target was to have more balanced innovation profile in the future, in 5 years, in 7 years, in 10 years, something like that. Our target for 2020 was something like this, to have a more balanced innovation profile for the region. So we started thinking our innovation flow and innovation system in the region, and started to, in a way, thinking that what if we could create open innovation platforms there in between of the innovation flow to accelerate, to funnel the innovation flow in a novel way. And those open innovation platforms are those things that we have been playing with and learning with up to now. The design of these innovation platforms has been based on few principles. The first principle is that we want to create new combinations of knowledge, not limiting to the existing collaborative relationships, but break the silos, break the existing networks and create new ones, combining the different sexes, ages, social groups and technologies together. The principle number 2 was to move faster in the value chain. I think Mr. Elop has a very good point here. It's not that wise to, first of all, spend time that much, but even worse, it's a complete waste of time to focus on PowerPoint presentations. Well, what I'm doing now? Oh. But anyway, it's very important to move in the value creation from ideas to market entry. And the third principle in our design was to make it very affordable to start for anybody. No entry fees, no upfront investments, no hundreds or thousands or hundreds of thousands of euros paying, but very lean and mean systems. And our first self-made innovation platform components have been the Demola, first of all for student and corporate co-creation. That has been a success story in Finland, in Europe, and also globally. Protomo is our lean startup engine for professionals, researchers, and companies. Our Suuntaamo is our kind of version of Living Lab activities and a lean Living Lab engine. And then first customer, a co-innovation environment for startups and their potential customers. All these have been packed together in an environment called a new factory. That is a place where, in a way, this kind of new collaborative things have been happening and piloted in our region. And well, everything has been producing great results. But I'm not here to talk about individual platform components that much, but about the policy lessons. What we have been learning during our journey, and now when we are in a way in a situation where we have to develop and further develop these kind of nice innovation platform components. Many companies have been participating in this. Different kind of organizations have been our partners. We have been able to create hundreds of jobs, hundreds of projects, hundreds of interesting opportunities for talented people, and tens of millions of funding for the companies that have been created in these environments. But still, the key question is there, how we are able to make this sustainable from the city perspective, and what is the role of these platforms in the smart city development. In our smart city approach, this kind of platform thinking plays a major role. We try to understand the smart city as an innovation platform, providing environments and opportunities for developers, companies, and citizens to co-create some new stuff together in various areas of smart city. And our approach is to utilize platform thinking in the overall system development, and in a way transform our policy-making principles to this platform mode. We see that in the cluster policy era of innovation policy, the key players were understood to be local universities and corporations. Now, in platform thinking, it's more about communities, talent, and ecosystem orchestrators that are the drivers of the stuff. It was important to mobilize networks to create R&D projects that were applying for millions of euros from the European Commission or from the national sources. Now it's more about creation of environments that are there to attract people to try out new stuff in an agile way. For the public sector, it was mostly about selection and funding of kind of product-oriented projects. Now, for the public sector, it's more about capability building and creation of kind of systemic project clouds, not that much selection of individual projects. And public sector was mainly in playing the funding role in this kind of traditional policy. For now, it's more about being a co-provider of various platforms, being a part of this co-creation process, and also be an innovative customer for stuff that is created on the platforms. So, our next mission after this learning is to create a system for professional innovation platform management in our region. We have been trying out several self-made things, several imported things in our region, and there are a few things that I would like to share with you at this point of time. First of all, it is very important from the very beginning to understand that if you want to create a platform, do not think about projects. Platform is not a project. It's something that is more sustainable. It is a long-term process. It's something that you are committed to do for a long time. And you just have to change your mindset from the kind of project thinking to platform thinking. And it's a different game. Then, in platform world, the platform has no value at all if there are no users. So if you are proposing that you have a platform, the first important question for you is always, do you have any users, and how many users, and what they are doing actually there? Platform is valuable only when there are users that are using the services provided by the platform. And we also understand that if we want to create a city platform, it's always a mix of several kind of components. And when building this kind of architecture of innovation platform for the city, you have to think about several things. First of all, make or buy. Do you want to develop something of your own, or is there something in the world that you can just copy-paste or apply for your own purposes? And of course, when you are thinking about this kind of platform options, you have to analyze the opportunities. Is there a user base on the platform, and is there a continuous flow of cases already? What is the repeatable process in the platform? What is actually happening there? Is there something happening there, or is it just a buzzword for something that is not really creating any value? Does the platform provide you the curation processes, the metrics and data out of those innovation processes that are executed on the platform? And what is the IPR policy on this platform? Does this has some kind of effect to the utilization of the results? And finally, it's very important to think also inside. If I am a city and I want to use certain platforms, am I really ready to use this specific platform? Does it require some changes in our own policies or practices in our own house? So analyzing this kind of questions, I think we are more ready to talk and improve the sustainability of our innovation environments and the platforms that are functioning there. Thank you very much.
A bit the pressure of being the last speaker of the day before we all take a bus. But it's a PDF here, and I hope it works by this. Yes. So I'm also glad to share, I think, some of the concepts or worries about the previous speakers, and also in the previous panel about open cities, I saw very interesting examples of openness. We are Goteo. We come from a non-profit foundation that's been trying to answer some of these questions during 3 years, and some of them I think relate quite a lot with not only crowdfunding, but what role plays in incubation, and what's the role of civic makers and people interested in creating new social or civic tools. In our case, if I can, yes, pass the slides, that traduces into a platform which is an open source one. I was glad to see also in some presentation today that, for example, in Yokohama, they are using a GitHub fork of our tool. This is the kind of replication we want to see around. As you probably know, crowdfunding has been there quite a lot, and especially in the last year has been shown as a good method for raising initial money, funds, for new innovative projects to test the interest from early adopters, to start to really develop by a minimum or a viable minimum amount of money, and that's basically what we try to do as well. But we developed this with a specific aim or purpose, which was to help to generate crowd benefits as well. That was our research question, our main hypothesis when we started, and that rethinks a little bit the idea of contribution. So to what extent projects funded by society are also have a value or a strong value for society because they can be replicated, they can contribute to more economic impact, etc. So I will show some examples that I hope, even if there's only a few things I want to share, they deserve some examples. We've been done this with communities of adopters. So before writing any line of code, we started to create these workshops, trying to identify what people in the cultural sector, but also in the technology or entrepreneur sector, were thinking important in a platform, which extra features a crowdfunding platform can have. That's why we came with an open standard funding policy model. That basically means that people are not only looking for monetary help. You can get through Goteo from tools to infrastructure to people helping you with what they want or know to do, from translation to any other type of informational tasks. And that's another way of contributing to sustainability in our point of view. And also what we are asking projects or people or users, more than 50,000 users right now, are asking projects to do is to also liberate and offer something apart from the usual perks or individual rewards. So at the end of the day, where is this crowd benefit, as I was saying, that can be helping us as a society to grow, or as a city to have more resources that we can share. That's why we are also integrating something that it's for some a gateway to open culture, and for some others a formal way of telling you what you can do openly with my project, which are the rules under which you can create new knowledge, new tools, or new services. As I was saying, I will try to provide a couple of examples about that, but this is the kind of also seriousness or how strictly we take this, and we think it's important to take in crowdfunding from our point of view. As I was saying, some examples from open data initiatives that are from the civic point of view, trying to address important challenges and problems. For example, in Spain, we have them with fires on forests, but what has to do, or what's the relationship with investment, or even private interests in land? Okay, journalists with open data and good visualizations can help, and society crowdfunding this are also saying something about this need. What happens with open hardware, okay, which are the models of, for example, 3D printers that have the same openness with the design or the prototyping that you can do with them, but you need to get some pieces from the community. So it's not just that you are pre-buying something or getting something because someone is pre-selling it through crowdfunding, is that you are entering into a production community. As Smart Citizen, I'm glad to see that this is a well-known example of a civic platform that was getting their first early adopters through a crowdfunding campaign in Goteo at the very, very beginning of the project. And that's why crowdfunding is also playing a role in those ideas that need a first test with real communities. Or other projects like the social coin, which is more pointing to the need of companies and corporate social responsibility to also go to the street and help others to help people to help other people with this kind of symbolic tokens or social coins. And well, it's a very open and also complex project. I don't have time to explain, but there are hundreds of them right now in Goteo. As I was saying, crowdfunding, or what we think crowdfunding is important, is for generating this kind of resources for your idea to become a prototype, or to have a first community of adopters, or to test the market or the potential market for the idea. But there's a lot of values and social aspects of it that we think it's important to take into account. So I just wanted to share 3 things that we are experiencing right now after we developed the platform, started to see money and non-monetary help moving through it, which is, okay, how can cities help or expand or promote development of innovation ecosystems around crowdfunding as well, because people is everywhere and they are using every time more and more this type of platforms. One is knowledge transfer. Basically, crowdfunding has a lot of tricks and things you need to know if you want to use it as a sustainability tool. And I think that cities and some public or even private bodies can be helping a lot to transfer this knowledge in the shape of workshops, in the shape of methodologies, and that's the kind of field we've been or area we've been quite active since the beginning. And we think there's still a lot to do in order to empower citizens the way they can use crowdfunding or not, especially also in which cases crowdfunding is not the recommended tool, for example. That's also an important thing. Secondly, what about public and private institutions joining crowdfunding hybrid models where they are multiplying people's money? We've been there as well. We've been testing these new formats where wherever I put 5, 50 or 100 euros, I'm moving with the same rules of crowdfunding. I'm moving feeder capital from public or private institutions, and they are doing something together with civil society, because these values of openness and transparency are also there. So I think, and we are working every day with other institutions trying to make this happen at a higher scale. And at the end, and that's something I think I share also with the previous speakers and also in other sessions, what's the role that around crowdfunding, co-creation and design thinking can play? Because it's a quite interesting tool. It's driving a lot of attention from different sides of sustainability, but we think that these are experienced from some of our work in methodologies for citizens, like sharing ideas for public space, developing prototypes with prototypes and a scenario, matching scenarios. What happens with crowdfunding, it's at the center of this kind of co-design or co-creation experiences. What you're estimating or what you're calculating with the help of end users is how much will it take this from going from paper to a reality, to a prototype that can be tested, and that also connects to methodologies of developing things. Very, very visually, or the way we are experiencing it or seeing it is, as I was saying, crowdfunding, it's at the center of production models, where before that there's engagement from citizens, from developers, following sometimes the hackathon model. And what's at the end of the day, out of this experience, it's a crowdfunding campaign that will need transparency and agile approaches, also with the direct involvement of people, crowdfunding projects, and all of it, with what we think it's also important, and we work with other institutions to try to generate, which is transparency, open data. So it's a complete ecosystem of things that can bring not only sustainability, initial feeder capital for projects, but a more wider experience where the citizen is also at the center. So we have lots of things in detail that I'm not going to explain here developed for that. And I will be glad to share them with you if it sounds interesting also for the things you're doing with people in your cities or with your projects. Thank you. And sorry for the speeding of the presentation.
Thank you very much, Enrique. We are huge fans of Gautier. And let me start with the questions, with one question, and then we open to the floor. One question that is always, for us, very common, and in part we are responsible. In research, we developed this framework of systems of innovation. And this framework, in very different ways, a triple helix, not a quadruple helix, in different formats, has been so pervasive in all the public policy in the last 30 years. And the problem with the framework is that we measure a lot, and we talk a lot about capabilities, and that goes to innovation potential. And innovation potential is nice, but one thing is potential and the other is realities. It's this sentence that I love so much, that, hard work beats talent if talent doesn't work hard. So that happens many times. Not the one who is more gifted, who has more capacities and so on, is the one who innovates anything. Sometimes innovation comes from people that are completely strange and don't have these capacities. How do you deal, especially for you both, you two, how do you deal with this idea? Because, there is a huge temptation of creating a wonderful framework for increasing innovation capacity with public money. And so many countries did that. And how do you go with resisting this temptation of creating one more framework with public money to increase the capacity without looking very much at the outputs and the realities and what it works and what it doesn't? I know it's a tough question.
Yeah. No, but it works. Yeah. I would like to say that it's not that how we are creating new platforms. I think we are more listening now, and we are working with as I said before, with citizens, with companies. So we want to define the challenge and to define the solutions with them. And it's the only way not to create new things that as a policy maker we think it could be interesting, but to work with others. Mm-hmm. And it's the only way to make things that could be necessary and could really solve the real challenge. But as always, the most difficult is to find the challenges. I think this is where we have to put our efforts. For example, Barcelona launched the Open Government platform, but it's looking for challenges. It's asking citizens, it's asking companies, which is the challenge I think we should solve. And I think as a government, and also as a person and as a father, our big problem is that we have to listen more before acting.
What is your take on that?
Very interesting and tough point. I would comment with maybe two approaches on that. First of all, in this kind of advanced innovation environments like in Barcelona or in Tampere, there are a lot of traditions, for example, like people are used to collaborate with certain players, certain companies, certain professors or departments at the universities. And I think one of the kind of benefits in this kind of capacity building for us during the last few years has been the fact that we have been able to, in a way, create new connections, new capacities to collaborate, not that much innovate per se, but in collaborating with different kind of disciplines and players. This is something that has been very valuable for us, and we believe that this will really pay off. The other approach now thinking from the kind of public procurement side and the relationship with our platforms, I fully agree that it is absolutely necessary that our cities and the people working there are able to formulate challenges and topics that are something that people can work on utilizing different kind of platforms. But then the final crucial question is what happens when the crowd has been working, when the people have been co-creating interesting concepts or prototypes or demos or something like that. What is the capacity and capability of the organization to really put things in production? Because in a way, demonstrating something and really or putting things into production in a big organizations like City of Tampere, for example, it's a completely different business. And making this kind of transformation from small-scale pilots to full-scale production is something that we are not fully capable to do at the moment. There is so much nice things happening at the moment and interesting things, but how we move them to the production and thus also motivate the developers to continue this effort.
And then Vic, what did you take on that? Your applications either make money or you have to close, so you don't have this benefit of.
Yeah, when it comes to scale, I think that also in some of the learnings from open source projects, where sometimes it's not only the tool itself, but the knowledge you gather around it when developing it and when adapting it to clients, etc. I think that some projects can play that game, some others not. Some others create value which has to do with social utility of what they're doing, and that's fair enough. And they get resources through crowdfunding or through these hybrid models. But what I think it's also interesting to see in crowdfunding, for example, is what role this can play when you put it on a table for a different kind of sustainability models, where you may need or in business angels, or you may need some kind of partners, and what you're putting on the table, it's not just the idea, but something that has already a community, has creating some kind of consequences at a local or global level, and money has not come only from one source, but from multiple ones. And again, not all crowdfunding or crowdfunding projects can do that, but I think that's one of the interesting lines of the logics taking place behind crowdfunding. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much. I'm sure that you have some interesting questions for all our presenters. Maybe some of you want to put some questions. Nobody? No? Nobody? Is there any more thing that you want to add, or any of you want to add to the presentation and so on?
We're good with time, huh?
It's time, so it's time.
But just to add a little bit,
Yes.
I think in a way, the innovation policies and innovation environments, they are changing fundamentally. And it's not only Tampere or Barcelona where the change is happening, it's happening globally. And I think this kind of capabilities to deal with new tools, new kind of platforms and working methods and collaboration methods, it's something that will be highly valuable for our people. And at the moment, especially from our perspective, the capacities that are there in the corporations and the challenge how the big corporations need to adapt to the kind of changing landscape of innovation. This is a dramatic challenge for the people working there. And now, for example, in our case, when people have been now leaving big corporations and working on their own, they are entering a kind of new world of doing things that has not been the working method in corporate R&D departments so far. And this kind of thing is very, very interesting, and we will see the results and outcomes in the near future about that.
Okay, oh yeah, you want to say something, please?
Thank you for the last point. Actually, I wanted to add, and I wanted to ask about the temporary experience per se. I mean, you mentioned about the shift from the more cluster sort of approach in R&D, which Finland has been very strong in, and towards a more platform type of innovation. I would say perhaps in an approach that has a shift. But in terms of the mindset, like what your last point really is how do people make that shift? I mean, does it create a certain sense of difference that people need to adapt to? And I mean, in the earlier format, it's a more cluster-based. I mean, that led to the big firms. I mean, like Nokia coming out for it. Do you see the same type of outcome coming from this new ecosystem, or do you think that it's actually a new form of businesses that will emerge?
Maybe you want to answer?
Yeah, it has been a pretty big change for most of the people entering this kind of new environments, and they learn this by doing things. So this has been the reasoning why we have been trying to keep the kind of entry barriers as low as possible, providing free spaces for people to join in, or some incentives for them to join the new kind of communities. What will come out of that? I believe that we will not see kind of very big corporations coming out of that. We will see a lot of interesting startups emerging, in many cases collaborating or being acquired by big corporations in some time. Well, Nokia is there still in our environment in a different shape. They are looking at IP that is created in our factories pretty actively at the moment. We have a lot of players from Asia entering Finland at the moment, realizing that there are a lot of talented people doing really, really cool stuff over there. So our ecosystem is becoming more and more kind of dynamic at the moment, and more players are part of this game. So we will be in the future from Tampere much more connected, much more deeply integrated to the global innovation ecosystems in the future that we have been before. And this is a great opportunity for us as a region as well.
And I think it's a global trend, so it's happening everywhere, and the size of the companies are the more innovative ones are small, and the collaboration it's a must, and that's a little bit our role to make it possible.
Okay, do you want to say something?
Yes. I was pretty much intrigued by a quote from Enrique saying that Goteo is a good barometer that indicates what a more collaborative and ethical society needs. And I wonder, what is this barometer telling you today?
Yeah, well, that's, I didn't quote this properly because it was by a journalist, and when I prepared the slide, I couldn't put it. But we also been asking ourselves what people are doing by backing open data projects. Sometimes, like right now, there's a project, for example, for citizens to know where the money goes when there's a public investment to build a building, or where is this public investment, which pockets at the end of the day. So it has to do with transparency, corruption. That's one side of the examples of transparency that society are demanding. But apart from, of course, political movements, etc., there's people which are makers or journalists or developers. They propose a tool, and they just need the minimum viable money for building this and starting to put pressure by tool, not pressure by other means. There's lots of examples also educational or ecological projects that are happening in the city where, if you take the data and you observe where the money comes from, without, of course, personal data, but that's the beauty of open data. You see where the drops come from, and then all of a sudden this urban garden growing in a corner in an empty space in the city has been backed by people from the neighborhood, but also from distant cities. They're probably wanting to replicate something there, and that's why they're backing. So I think that this barometer, it's something we observe as managers of the tool. We try to create conclusions with journalists or researchers, but the real barometer is in the data, and those data, we invite other platforms to share it as well. So crowdfunding can be also a good indicator of what the money from people is saying about the needs we have as a society, also in entrepreneurship, of course.
Okay, let me close with one thought, and we have to take a bus in a minute. The thought is innovation is changing now from science parks to going back to the city. And then organizations like Goteo, co-working spaces, and so on, are getting more important. Probably we need talent. We always need talent. That's not new, but probably now we need to attract more talent, not only build it, because of the diversity that we need. We need capital. That always has been like this. But now we need also collaboration spaces of encounter that can make people meet and so on. And what we need most, and many times we lack, it's opportunities. Without opportunities, nothing is going to happen. These developers are not going to become a company. These companies are not become a large company. Large companies are not. Providing opportunities is probably the real challenge. So thank you so much. Let's go for the bus. Thank you.